is an auspicious occasion. I'm very excited for the stream tonight. I have been for some time. This is one for me. This is no. I have no consideration of. I'm not bringing in the big number audiences with this one. This is one that I'm doing for myself. This is a replay that I have been planning on doing for years. I mean, since I played it the first time, I've been planning on replaying it. I did attempt to replay it once after, and I'll tell that story as well. The game is Mother 3. In my heart, what I feel is my favorite video game of all time. A big part of this playthrough is going to be reassessing that and adjusting my ego accordingly. But I want to give a little bit of a history of this game for me, like a personal history, and talk a little bit about how it relates to my experience of EarthBound, Mother 2, which I did replay on the stream a few months ago. Let me just turn the music down just the tiniest little bit for me and for the stream. So as I mentioned in my EarthBound playthrough many times, which if you're watching this now and you want to check that out, that's all on the YouTube. You may be even watching this on the YouTube. I plan on putting all of this preamble in the YouTube video that I upload. Normally I cut the beginning and end off the stream, but this time I want to keep it in. First played EarthBound in high school. I think it was around 2003, 2004. It's hard to, that time of my life is kind of hard to recall with perfect accuracy. But I played it around the same time as I was exploring a lot of JRPGs on the SNES, which was a console that I had some experience with as a child, but we kind of skipped it in our house. We had the NES, and we had it going through most of the 90s, and we ultimately inherited a lot of families and friends NES games as they upgraded to the SNES. So as a result, I played a ton of NES games and loved that console in a big way. Had the Game Boy as well, but that was my main jam. And then we got the Nintendo 64 in I think 99, Christmas 99 was when we got that. Must have been 98, not that it matters. Point is, I skipped the SNES, and when I was first fully exploring emulation, I felt like that was a whole world that I needed to have opened back up to me. And so I did. I deep dived, played a lot of games that people would put on a list of the ones to play, but I also played a lot of kind of weirder ones, not super weird, but games like Terranigma. Terranigma was a really big one for me, because even at that time in my life, I was obsessed with the obscure and the alternative, maybe even more so at that time in my life. So I wasn't Google searching the top 5 JRPGs on the SNES. I was Google searching the overlooked games or the underrated games. So I ended up playing a lot of those. And even at that time, EarthBound, I don't think had really exploded in the West in the way that games like Chrono Trigger or Final Fantasy VI had. And so EarthBound, I don't even know where I read about EarthBound, but that I in my mind it was a bit of a weirder one that as I was experiencing it, I was okay, yeah, this is super weird. This is even different to a lot of the stuff that I'm playing as well. And I loved it. I had a really good time with it. And then it kind of got lost in the melange of all of the other games that I was playing at that time. Chrono Trigger was the one that really stuck with me, that I ended up playing multiple times over the years. And I have actually a copy of, it's not sealed, but it's in its retail shrink wrap that I bought for the Super Famicom when I was in Japan a couple of years ago. That's a pride. I love that game. Anyway, this isn't about EarthBound. And so then years later, I heard about Mother 3 as kind of like it's one of those. It was one of those games that was sort of like whispered about on corners of the internet that I frequented, and then the unofficial fan translation came out around the time that I started hearing about it. Probably not a coincidence. Let me just check when the fan translation came out, because I want to see this. I may have played it right when it came out, 2006. Okay, so it was about a year-ish after that, maybe 18 months after that, I grabbed this. So it had been out for a little while, but perhaps there was like an article about it that clued me into it. And I played it around the time that I moved out of home for the first time. And I played it on my Nintendo DS on a pirate GBA cartridge that you could upload a game to, or probably multiple games. The only game I uploaded to it was Mother 3. This was like, I wanted this to be sort of a ritual. I read about the game, and I remembered how much I'd enjoyed my time with EarthBound, and I knew this was going to be like a special thing to do. So I put it on this cartridge, and it was a cartridge that you put in your DS that was like specifically meant to fit in the DS, because if you put a Game Boy Advance cartridge in the DS, old heads out there will remember, it stuck out the bottom a little bit, but this was like the exact shape of the thing that you would put in that hole when you weren't playing a Game Boy Advance game. It was like a kind of a thinner, it had like a little strip along the bottom to close up the gap so that no gunk got in there. And this pirate cartridge, which I think I still have somewhere, fit right in there. And I played the game, and I played it voraciously. I played it every chance I could get. I was working a retail job at the time. I remember taking breaks to go to the bathroom so that I could get like 5 minutes with it. And I was playing it on the bus, and I was playing it late into the evening, and this game just like, it was like the exact right time for me to have this connection with the video game. This was also kind of around the time that I was like letting video games back into my life in a weird way. I had abandoned them after high school, thinking it was sort of like I was shedding them. I was shedding childish things, becoming an adult. And this was like one of the games that I was like allowing myself to connect to in a way that I had not allowed myself to connect to games in you know, this. It seems in retrospect like a really long time. It was only a couple years between finishing high school and the moment that I played this game. And yeah, it was such a monumental, emotional experience, and such a great game too, like so fun, and such an interesting set of mechanics, and a phenomenal set of characters. And from what I'd read, the translation was pretty spot on, which was important to me and still is important to me, which I think is part of the reason why this game never got an official translation. I have a good feeling that the people who get to make those kinds of decisions have seen this one and just been like, okay, this is, I mean, we would have to retranslate the whole game. It probably would ultimately just look a lot like this. Anyway, that's my headcanon. No, nothing founding that whatsoever. So with EarthBound, when I replayed that on stream a few months ago, I was doing it in a way. How do I articulate this? My memory of EarthBound was not as strong as my memory of Mother 3 is, and because I played it sort of frivolously, I wanted to play EarthBound like actively. I wanted to stick my teeth into the world. I wanted to talk to all the NPCs, and I wanted to do it in a way that allowed people to watch and be a part of it on the stream. And this has a different flavor of active play now, because this is a game that I remember way more than EarthBound. I remember like most of, if not all of, the major plot beats. I don't think I'm going to remember like the way through areas, or like which items are the right ones to use, because this is still like 15 years ago that I played this for the first time, which is crazy to think. That can't be right. Is that right? God, it is. It's almost 15 years. Jesus. Anyway. It's probably worth mentioning before I go in. I'm kind of putting this off a little bit because I want to savor this. I want to also get all of this out at the top. So if anyone is watching this and interested in why I'm playing it or how I'm playing it, which I think is like something I want to talk about a lot during this playthrough, is like being primed for a game, whether that's physically, like dexterously, or emotionally, or whatever it is that game requires from you, being ready to give that to the game as the player and as the participant in the act of play. Because that was what colored my experience with Mother 3. It's what continues to color my memory of it, as well as how primed and ready I was emotionally to receive it without even intending to be in that state, and how much that has stuck with me. And the other thing I want to mention, I did try and replay it a few years later. Maybe not even a few, maybe like 1 or 2 years later. And that cartridge that I had put the game onto had been corrupted and was no longer allowing me to keep a save file on there. And then I just like had a ROM of it sitting on pretty much every computer I've had since then. And I've just never booted it back up. I think partially out of fear, partially out of reverence. But I'm ready to do that. I'm ready to revisit this world. I'm ready to reconnect with my friend Lucas. I'm ready to play this with the memory of EarthBound fresh in my mind, unlike when I played it the first time. And I'm ready to see just how much of EarthBound is in Mother 3. It's a lot. I know it's a lot. I know it is a lot. But I want to see truly how much. I want to really feel the connections between those two games. So we're going to be playing it with those things in mind. Welcome to anyone who's hanging out and just lurking, or anyone watching the YouTube videos after the fact. Let's get rid of this music and let me get the game all ready.